Hi, this is Mrs. Ankrum reading from Storm Runners. 2:35 a.m. Tomas and John climbed back into the truck after cutting through their third tree. Cindy and Mark had stayed in the cab because getting in and out wasted too much time. That should be the last one for a while, John said, wiping his head with an already sopping towel. There's a lake up ahead. Tomas put the truck into gear and stepped on the accelerator. The wipers could barely keep up with the rain, and the defroster was having a hard time with the damp heat coming off their bodies, making it nearly impossible for them to see through the windshield. As soon as they left the tree cover, they were hit by a vicious blast of wind. The truck fishtailed, but Tomas got it under control and pushed ahead. The sheeting rain prevented Cindy from seeing anything out her little side window. Tomas slammed on the brakes and shouted something in Spanish that Cindy didn't understand. John began swearing, and she understood everything he said. Tomas put the truck into reverse and backed up twice as fast as they had driven forward. "What's going on?" Mark shouted. "Road's out," John said. Tomas drove the truck back into the cover of the trees and stopped. He and John had another short conversation in Spanglish. "We're going to walk back up and take a closer look at the levee road," John translated. "If we can't get across, we're going to have to backtrack all the way to where we met up with Tomas and find another way around." "I'm going with you," Cindy said. "No," John said. "The little bit of road we're on might collapse." Cindy zipped her coat and pulled up her hood. Mark did the same. "Suit yourself," John said. They got out of the truck. John linked arms with Cindy. Tomas linked arms with Mark. In their free hands, they carried heavy-duty flashlights. They hunched into the powerful wind and shuffled forward. It took them several minutes to reach the break. It was 25 feet across, if not more. John and Tomas got down on their stomachs and crawled to the very edge of the break. They shined their lights under the jagged asphalt and stuck their heads over the edge. Cindy could not even imagine what they were looking for. It was a dead end. Getting across was impossible. She looked down the long road and thought she saw something. She wiped the rain from her eyes and looked again. "John!" John got up. "I saw a light. Maybe two lights." "The power's out and we're in the middle of a refuge. No one lives here, which is one of the reasons we came this way. The road to the farm is on the other side of this lake." "I saw it too," Mark said. "The light was a long way off, but I might have caught it on video." "Where?" John asked. Cindy pointed, "Straight down the road." John held his light above his head and flashed it on and off several times. No lights flashed back at them. "Let's get back to the truck," John said. "I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get around this lake, or if there even is a way around it." Tomas jockeyed the truck around and headed back the way they had come. Cindy tapped John on the shoulder. "What were you and Tomas looking for over the edge of that road? For a second, I thought you were trying to figure out a way of jumping it." John laughed. "We hate backtracking, but we're not crazy. Well, not that crazy. We were looking at how a levee disintegrates. It's not often that you get to see something like that. It's interesting." "I've got news for you, John," Cindy said. "You are crazy." "Nah, we're storm runners." "Got it," Mark said. "What?" "The lights." And Cindy was right. There were two of them. Mark turned the camera around so they could see the small screen and hit play. It wasn't very clear, but two lights definitely appeared at the end of the dark road. They moved from left to right, then disappeared. "Play it back," John said. Mark played it back in slow motion. "That's pretty strange," John said. "I guess I should have been looking down the road instead of under it." "What do you think they were?" Cindy asked. John shook his head. "I have no idea, but weird phenomena happen during storms like this. Most of the time, nobody sees them because we're inside, under shelter. Maybe it was a couple of storm runners out for a stroll, Cindy said. Back the truck up, John shouted. Tomas immediately put it into reverse. What are you doing? Cindy asked. I need to check something out. This is far enough. Tomas slammed on the brakes, and John jumped out of the cab with his flashlight and began searching the road. 5 minutes later, he climbed back into the cab and grabbed his sat phone from the dash. What did you find? Cindy asked. Tire tracks. School bus tire tracks. Those lights might have been Chase. He punched in Chase's number. 3:00 a.m. Rashawn's massage, coupled with Nicole's determination to get home, brought Nicole's legs back to life. They reached the road on the 4th try with relative ease. Once there, they didn't hesitate. They locked arms with Nicole in the middle and started walking, which got a lot easier when they turned to the left and had the wind at their backs. The only things they had to contend with were downed trees and flying debris. They stumbled out onto Nicole's road, bruised, cut, scraped, and out of breath, but they were alive, for which they were all very grateful. Chase looked at his GPS while they took a short rest. He wasn't sure which part of his body hurt the most. His shoulder and tooth seemed to be in a sharp competition for the top spot. 1/2 mile to the gate, he said, covering his broken tooth with his upper lip so the wind couldn't get at it. There's a lot of water on the road, Nicole said. Chase had been wet for so long he'd hardly noticed. But she was right. The water was up to their ankles. He tried to picture the long driveway up to the Rossi house and thought it was uphill, but he wasn't sure. He was so exhausted he was having a hard time focusing. The only things keeping him going were Nicole, who had to be more exhausted than he was, and Rashawn, who had turned out to be a bulldozer of will and endurance. Ready? Rashawn said. Chase nodded and was about to forge ahead when he felt something tickle his leg. He reached down to itch it and realized what it was. Wait! He pulled the sat phone out of his pocket and took it out of the plastic bag. Hello? Where are you? His father's voice sounded 1,000,000 miles away. About a 1/2 mile from the farm, Chase shouted above the wind. The bus sank. Are you okay? Yeah. Is the bus driver with you? He's dead. I'm with Nicole Rossi and a girl named Rashawn. Where are you? On the other side. What? We're Lake saw light. Is that your father? Nicole asked. What's he saying? Hang on, Chase said. He squatted down and pulled the blanket over his head to get the phone out of the wind and rain. Chase? I'm here, but you're breaking up. Get to. We'll be as soon as. The phone went dead. Chase put the phone back in the plastic bag and came out from under his makeshift shelter. That was my father, he reported to Nicole and Rashawn. It was a lousy connection, but I think he's on the other side of the lake. He may have seen our headlamps on the other end of the levee. He's going to try to get to the farm. That's all I can tell you. So that phone of yours works? Rashawn said. Chase shook his head. It worked for about 20 seconds, then it went out. If I can get it dried out, it might come back on. Let's go. They locked arms and started up the road with Nicole back in the middle, but this time they weren't holding Nicole up, they were holding one another up. None of them could have made it without the others. As he leaned into the final stretch with his friends, Chase couldn't help but think about how the night would have gone if Dr. Krupp had listened to him. They'd be in the cafetorium in the dark with the wind roaring outside, but safe, uninjured, with their bellies full from raiding the coolers and vending machines. The bus driver would be alive at home with his family, if he had a family. Chase didn't even know the bus driver's name. And what about his father and Tomas? Chase was certain his father was worried about him, but there was nothing he could do until the storm passed. Save yourself. You're no good to anybody if you're dead, including yourself.